Today, we are cranking the amp and diving deep into the wild 50-year saga of a true rock giant, Deep Purple. Now, their story isn't just about a few big hits. Oh no, it's a masterclass in reinvention, total collapse, and unbelievable resurrection. All right, so to really understand Deep Purple's place in history, you have to start with this phrase, the unholy trinity. It's not just a cool nickname. It literally defines the birth of a whole new kind of music. So you've got the rock gods Led Zeppelin, the absolute creators of heavy metal Black Sabbath, and then you have Deep Purple. Together they built the foundation for pretty much all hard rock that followed. But here's the thing that makes Purple so different. While their peers had these iconic, stable lineups, Deep Purple's story is one of constant, sometimes brutal change. So how did this legendary band even get started? You're probably picturing a few mates jamming in a garage, right? Well, nope. The real story is way weirder and honestly a lot more corporate than you'd ever guess. You see, the whole thing started as a business venture with this very strange idea called roundabout. The founder, Chris Curtis, was this brilliant guy who his bandmates described as, well, pharmaceutically challenged. And his vision was literally a musical merry-go-round, a band with no fixed members. It was so chaotic, he actually got fired from his own project before it even got off the ground. And the quirky start doesn't end there. Once the whole roundabout idea collapsed, the guys who stuck around, John Lord and Ritchie Blackmore, needed a name. Blackmore threw out Deep Purple because it was his grandma's favorite song. Can you imagine? Some of the other members were apparently pretty embarrassed by it at first. But the band that finally got a record deal wasn't the band we think of today. Not at all. Their first lineup, Mark I, had a massive #4 hit in the US with a pop cover song, Hush. It was psychedelic and organ-heavy. But remember, this was the era of Cream and Jimi Hendrix, who were just cranking everything louder and harder. And the band's founders, Lord and Blackmore, they heard that and wanted in. They were craving something way heavier, something they called raw and dirty. And that craving for a heavier sound, well, that brings us right to the legendary Mark II lineup. This is the moment everything changes. It's where Deep Purple doesn't just find their sound, they accidentally create one of rock's greatest albums out of a complete and total disaster. With a new powerhouse singer, Ian Gillan, and bassist Roger Glover on board, they dropped a trio of albums that basically wrote the textbook for hard rock. They got so aggressive and so loud that in 1975, the Guinness Book of World Records literally named them the globe's loudest band. I mean, that's a heck of a title to earn. And the success? It was absolutely staggering. We're talking over 100 million albums sold worldwide. This wasn't just some small shift in their music, it was a commercial juggernaut that turned them into global superstars. But here's where the story gets really incredible. Their most famous album, Machine Head, was born out of pure chaos. They show up in Montreux, Switzerland to use a mobile recording studio, and the night before they start, they go to a Frank Zappa concert. During the show, some idiot with a flare gun sets the entire casino on fire, and their studio burns to the ground. They ended up having to record the album in the hallways of a hotel that was closed for the winter. And that disaster gave us one of the most recognizable songs ever written. It's not a metaphor. Bassist Roger Glover literally woke up from a dream with the title Smoke on the Water after watching the smoke from the fire drift across Lake Geneva. The lyrics aren't a story. They're a literal step-by-step report of what happened. But you know the classic rock and roll story. The higher you climb, the harder you fall. And right at the absolute peak of their fame and creative power, the classic Deep Purple lineup just completely fell apart. What came next was a period of wild musical risks and some seriously destructive band politics. The band totally transformed. They brought in these two incredible new guys, David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes, who injected this massive dose of soul and funk into the music. But Ritchie Blackmore, the original guitarist, absolutely hated it. He quit to form his own band. They brought in another guitarist, Tommy Bolin, for Mark IV, but that lineup was just plagued by drug problems and terrible shows, and in 1976, the whole thing just stopped. So, after 8 years of total silence, you'd think, okay, that's it. End of story. But with Deep Purple, the story is never really over. This next chapter is all about an unbelievable, almost stubborn refusal to die. Just look at this timeline of persistence. The band is dead in '76, then boom, 1984, the classic lineup is back together for a huge album and tour. Then, in 1994, a new guitarist named Steve Morse joins, and that kicks off nearly 3 decades of stability, which for this band is just insane. And they're still at it today with their ninth official lineup.
And get this, they weren't just a nostalgia act playing the old hits. Far from it. Starting in 2013, they teamed up with the legendary producer Bob Ezrin and had this massive late career comeback. We're talking #1 albums in countries like Germany, 3 in a row. They were as relevant as ever. So let's step back for a second. After all the chaos, the revolving doors, the fires, the breakups, and the comebacks, what is the legacy of Deep Purple? What does it all add up to?
Well, their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2016 pretty much sums up their whole career perfectly. It was this huge moment to celebrate their incredible influence, but it was completely bogged down in classic Deep Purple drama. Longtime members who'd been in the band for decades got snubbed, and Ritchie Blackmore claimed he was actually banned from showing up. It was a mess. But when you clear away all that smoke and drama, what's left is the music and the influence. And that influence is just undeniable. When Metallica's Lars Ulrich inducted them, he called them one of the most influential bands in rock history. And he's right. Their DNA is in everything from hard rock to speed metal. And you know, it's funny. In the end, they kind of became the crazy thing their founder imagined from the very beginning. They became a true musical roundabout, an institution that was bigger than any one person, where the music itself was the only thing that truly mattered and endured. So it really leaves you with this big question, doesn't it? When you look at a band that's been through 9 lineups over 50 years, what even is the band anymore? Is it the original members? Is it the hit songs? Or is it just the spirit of the music itself, this unbreakable thing that just keeps rolling on?